Yo, and hello, everybody. Mike here, baseball collector. And today I wanted to do kind of a special video, something a little bit different. I've been seeing a lot of guys that have done video tributes to Kaline, the great Hall of Fame Detroit Tiger player who passed away yesterday at the age of 85. And Kaline was one of my favorites. And I think one of the reasons he was one of my favorites is because he was one of my dad's favorites. And that is just I wasn't a Tigers fan growing up or anything like that, but just talking to my dad about him, and my dad always having such great things to say about him, I wanted to do a little bit different type of a tribute. So I do have a few cards I'm going to show real quick. Kaline, I have so many autographs of Kaline. I have 42 Kaline autographs, and two of my favorites are this one right here, which is a 59 Topps that's signed, which is gorgeous. And Kaline had such a great signature, incredibly simple. His name was relatively simple, and so it allowed for just a simple flowing signature that he had. The other one was this one. And the reason, this is the 59 Topps All-Star. And the reason why that one means so much to me is because my dad got it for me back in the day, and we'll tell some stories about that here in a second. And then my favorite Kaline card that I have is, of course, his 1954 Topps rookie card. And I have that in a PSA 3.5. Just a great card with bold colors and beautiful. So I love having that. But, you know, I think a lot of us have Kaline stuff. Most of it, he was a great through the mail signer all through the years, and just all around great ball player. So a lot of people had stuff of his in their collection. But I wanted to bring a little bit unique of a spin to this idea of tributing to Kaline. And so I want to bring my dad on. And hi, Dad.
Hey, how are you? I've been out in the green room and listening to your intro.
Good. I wanted to bring you on because when I told you Kaline passed away yesterday, I know you were kind of sad.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was saddened, and he meant a lot to me. You know, he was one of the guys that was truly one of the greats in the sports industry. I was fortunate enough to be personally in the same room as a lot of broadcasters, a lot of sports heroes, because that's where they tended to be, was up in the booth. They would, as you know, Kaline was a broadcast announcer. He was a color announcer for.
Yeah, he teamed up with George Kell for the Tigers.
Exactly.
Doing television. And maybe I should tell everybody, you worked at the Rangers ballpark for decades, and your camera was typically what they call high home, which is up in the broadcast booth with the announcers during the game.
Our job just before the game started was to spin around and shoot the talent that had come to us from Detroit or LA or wherever they came from. Why, we were there with them. So if it was a Scooter in the booth, why, we knew the Yankees were there. Mel Allen was right down the hall.
Yeah.
George Kell would have been right around the corner in radio when the
Ernie Harwell.
Tigers. Ernie Harwell
did radio.
Ernie Harwell.
George Kell.
Right down the. Yeah, he was. Can we just start again?
No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Kaline and George Kell were a broadcast team for television.
Right.
Ernie Harwell was a solo. I mean, he had a helper who was kind of a no-name sort of guy. I don't really remember who he was. But anyway, they were a broadcast team. They traveled the country, and they came around to different stadiums, 3-4 games at a time, and they would come into the Rangers, and we would send a broadcast back to Detroit. It was called the away feed, and I tended to like to work that. It's not that I didn't like working with Busby and Jim Sundberg, but it was always something new. Every time a new broadcast team came in, why, suddenly you have Vin Scully in the booth, or suddenly you have somebody from the Yankees or from the Boston.
Yeah.
So it was always a lot of fun to work that. I really enjoyed it, and so I tended to go over there if I could, if I had the choice.
So
So
let's talk about Kaline a little bit.
Kaline was just a great guy. He was up there. I'd put him up there with people like Tom Landry, Roger Staubach, people that really cared about how they were thought of. They didn't mess around. They didn't go to the clubs at night. They didn't necessarily be the party boys that you might think of sports heroes being, but nevertheless, they were men among men. They were really good guys, and there's a lot of them that were that way, and I tended to really respect those people that were that way. So one of the stories that I always think of, I had a good friend who always ran center field camera, and he had a young lady he was dating, and he kind of got her a job up in the booth. It was called AD, Assistant Director, and her job was to keep all of these 3x5 note cards in order. And when the director would say, hand him the promo on Kids Night next week at Detroit Stadium, why, she would look through there, find the stadium, put it in front of Mr. Kaline to read it when he got a chance. So her whole job was these cards and how important they were. Well, she had set them down on the front ledge of the window, and a breeze blew up and dumped all the cards off. Well, she is on her knees, just beside herself, trying to reorganize these cards. And she's looking down. There's a guy at the plate, and Mr. Kaline is calling the game, and bam, all of a sudden, there's a worm burner hit right back at the stadium. Now, this is in the old Arlington Stadium, I believe, the first before the ballpark at Arlington. And this fast hit ball was just spinning. You could tell, man, it's going to come back here, and really just misses. Well, Kaline could see he had a great reputation for being able to catch a ball, but he saw that it was going to intersect with this young lady that my friend was dating. Her name was Deborah. And he reached out in a blink of an eye and caught that ball. I'll never forget, because he wore a rather large ring on his right hand right here. You'll have to check and see what kind of ring that he was wearing, but
probably a 1968 World Series ring.
Probably. He was quite proud of it, and it
Right.
was huge.
Right.
And he reaches out and he catches this ball with his right hand, and literally the ball took him back. And I looked from my camera, was over here, and I'm looking at where this ball had come, and he was inches away from Deborah's head. I mean, that ball would have hit her absolutely, would have made her another person. I mean, this thing would have ruined her. Hit her right in the side of the head, would been where it hit her. But he didn't let that happen. He caught it, and then later I said, good catch. And he, like that to me. And then later I looked down at him, just smiled at him, and was thankful. I don't think Deborah ever knew what happened. She was too busy trying to resort her cards, but she may not remember this, but I remember it. I looked down and he had his ring off. He thought, I better get this ring off before it starts swelling, because man, he had taken it hard. No glove. I mean, no, this was a
Yeah.
absolute worm burner that came through not very far off the bat. I mean, they could be spinning up there. There was several marks in the back wall where balls had come through just on the same type of trajectory and just ruined the back wall, leave dents in the sheetrock and holes in the sheetrock. So that's one of my most favorite stories about Kaline. He reached down, he was rubbing his hand, getting that ring off and making sure he didn't have to go to the doctor, because that thing really had to hurt him. I mean, it was whistling and he caught it barehanded.
Okay, that's cool. I know you got a couple of things signed by Al Kaline for me.
Yeah. He
Back
was
today.
always a very generous, very generous. You guys were playing baseball at Little League at that same time, and he always wanted to hear what the latest was on his pitcher and his catcher. You, of course, were the catcher, and your twin brother, was a pitcher for the Little League team that Mr. Kelly had. And it was baseball has been very, very good to us. I think you can admit to that.
I love the game, and I love that you were I got to go to a lot of games with you and sit in the booth with you, and
yeah,
a lot of these guys. I don't remember ever meeting Al Kaline. I certainly might have. I don't
probably were around him.
But I know I have
you always had to be very quiet. You couldn't,
right.
I mean, I would have absolutely slapped you down if you had said anything or, caused any kind of ruckus in the booth. You were very well behaved when you were out there with me.
As you used to say, you would have taught me the warm kiss of a wet fist.
You would have not forgotten the warm kiss of a wet fist. Yeah.
Right. I have incredibly fond memories of going to games with you and just either being a runner or just sitting there quietly and just enjoying the game or whatever.
You remember the time you got a job to show Mr. October down to the
I do. You
want to tell people about that? No, this is about Al Kaline.
It's about Al Kaline. And I think I've told that story before.
Okay.
Maybe I will again on another video, but any final Al Kaline thoughts? We've been going about 13 minutes here, so I don't know.
Wow, I can't believe that.
You know, right?
Minutes. It goes quick when you're having fun.
It does.
Maybe you can edit down some of my long-windedness and change that into something.
Now we're good.
Well spoken.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. And I know you probably over the years, interacted with him dozens and dozens of times. And that's just cool that you have those memories. And
there's another time that he, I believe he signed the ball. Did he not?
He did sign the ball, which is in the other room.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He was always very generous with his time, and he always wanted to check in with how you're doing, because I was his cameraman always. And I would make sure if he had a little piece of lint on his shoulder, his lapel, or I did that for not just him, but everybody, I would take a piece of tape and blot him down and make sure he looked good and wasn't sweating. And, because sometimes Arlington was pretty hot, but you could pat him dry just before you went on the air. And he was a great guy to know.
Good.
Just a lovely human being, and the world will miss him.
Well, thanks, Dad, for your thoughts, and thanks for coming on my channel. And
this is great. I haven't been on anything since you built the beast back there behind you.
Really, since you built the beast, I was more of a glorified assistant. But
this is my version of the beast behind me. You can see some of my.
Where you got all your tools.
Mike and I have the same fetish. If you haven't figured it out. We both are collectors, but I'm more in the way of tools and love working with my hands and all kinds of things like that. And Mike, on the other hand, he likes collecting the cards, but we both have to have drawers to keep our collections in.
Yep. Well,
all righty. Well, we love you. And I'll go back to the green room now. Here I go.
All right. Bye. Guys, keep collecting. We'll see you later.